I find space terrifying. The thought of this never-ending void space filled with mysteries sends shivers down my spine. There's a particular photograph I find both incredible and haunting, titled Earthrise. It's a very famous photo from 1968, taken by an astronaut on the Apollo 8 mission to orbit the moon. Seeing the Earth peeking out of that complete darkness, all the way from the moon in that harsh coldness that dark expanse holds, it has an eeriness to it. You don't feel safe from that perspective, especially considering this was one of the early space exploration missions. It's no wonder that space is such a popular theme in media, especially cosmic horror, as while space is explainable, it's also very unexplainable. But as creepy as I find the idea of a limitless vacuum with no up or down, I weirdly find it comforting to know that there's this ginormous collection of universes with no end in sight, endless possibilities, mysteries, freedom to go anywhere. Outer space is scary but also inspiring. It's this inspiration from infinity that I want to utilize to create a little cosmic horror concept. This story starts with a space probe. Space exploration has come a long way. Specialists are hopeful that humans can begin further and faster space exploration, deeper into the solar system and beyond. The hope of reaching out and finding other galaxies with their own worlds and civilizations was infectious amongst experts and the public. Scientists researching into outer space recently discovered a strange sight reaching out from the dark depths, a flickering. After much deliberation, they sent a probe to the coordinates to get a closer look, hopeful that it could be a signal of some kind. Thanks to advancements in technology, scientists have been planning to test out much faster probes that can reach far distances much more quickly. But whilst en route to the predicted location of the flickering, the probe unexpectedly collided with something. This didn't make much sense, as the course it was charted on didn't have any known hazards nearby, not even rogue asteroids. The last images back from the probe didn't make any sense either. It showed a blurry visual of what matches the loosely analysed description of the flickering source. But the probe couldn't have possibly reached it yet, based on where the flickering was discovered in relation to the observable sky. It looked like it should be much further away. This was deeply puzzling to the scientists. The flickering was deemed to be not naturally occurring, meaning it must have been made by something. This was already the planned direction that the next crewed space mission were going to take, planning to travel further than anyone before. But after the mysterious collision, there were calls to change this. However, this had been in the works for years, so the mission went ahead, deeming the probe collision to be a mechanical error. By the scientists' estimates and the advancement in travel speed, the crew will pass by the flickering in 1 year, where they'll attempt to photograph it as they go by. But something truly unexpected happened. After only 10 days of travel, the astronauts reported a sighting of the flickering, getting closer and larger as they continued forward. They were instructed to immediately decrease speed and approach the flickering cautiously. When they were close enough, personnel on Earth asked what visuals the astronauts had of the flickering. For a long time, there was no response from the astronauts. Ground control was in a nervous frenzy, requesting updates but receiving no answer. Then, after what felt like an excruciatingly long silence, the lead astronaut responded saying, "I don't know if you want to see this." The picture they sent through was nothing that could have ever been expected. Right in the middle of the inky dark void was a ceiling light. Something you'd find in any basement. A light hanging from the ceiling, old and flickering. The astronauts prepared a spacewalk to get a closer look, suspecting this must be some kind of alien spacecraft. After exiting the ship and approaching the unknown object, closer inspection showed it really did resemble any regular ceiling light. There was no sign of life anywhere around. They travel up the cord linked to what looks like a ceiling plate floating in the expanse. But when they reach it, their blood turned as cold as the space around them. Where the ceiling plate ended, space ended. The astronauts put their hands out and made contact with what seemed like an invisible wall, stretching out everywhere from the ceiling plate. A barrier. They got back in the ship, travelled far along from the light, exited and tried again. Just wall. Entered the ship, opposite direction, exited, wall again. But this wasn't some kind of window with the rest of space outside of it. This surface was made of something deep and heavy, like stone that had been painted black. The celestial bodies that were once far off in the distance were nothing more than murals on this surface. There was no further the astronauts could go. They watched in stunned silence as this light continued to flicker, as if the batteries needed replacing. They understand now what the probe had hit. Outer space, a never-ending void of mysteries, has a ceiling. Whilst I say that infinite space is a scary thought, something which I find even scarier is the concept that it isn't infinite, that there is an end, that what we thought was an open ocean of discovery is actually a dark basement with walls, a floor and a ceiling, and it's much smaller than we thought, and something as mundane as a ceiling light found in this grand ancient space feels bizarre and creepy. And then there's the why. Why is it there? Who put it there? What does it mean? This knowledge that there is a definitive end to space, that the stars and galaxies we saw were nothing more than illusions, trapped in a box with no one else around, not knowing if anything exists outside this wall. Even with all the room on Earth, something about this feels claustrophobic. So that's my concept for a little deep space horror story. No great monster or disaster, just something as mundane as a ceiling, out in the distance. It isn't jump scaring or even dangerous, it's just something that fills you with existential dread. There's something that feels final about it, that this is the furthest to ever go, and how desperate it would make you to find a way out if you were in this world. I had a few inspirations for this concept. The Fomerian engraving is the biggest one. It's a famous engraving created by an unknown artist. It depicts a man at the edge of the world, peering out through a dome to see a limitless universe beyond. I took this and thought, what would we do if there was no beyond? That this dome was all there was. Video games like Outer Wilds, which explore existentialism and cosmic indifference, also came into this, along with the Backrooms and liminal space games, which often mix recognisable and mundane environments with existential dread. I can imagine the setting of this being in a world like Outer Wilds, the Earth-like planet inhabited by people such as Harfians, which feels fantastical but also pretty scientific in its logic on space. It kind of makes me relieved to know that space does expand further than we could imagine. I've honestly been getting pretty interested in learning more about it, especially with the recent Artemis moon mission. Let me know what you think and if you like the concept. It's not exactly horror in an obviously scary way, but there's still something really creepy about this idea which I like.